Hey guys, this is Not Lammers of Invoked 101, and today I want to talk about the April ban list that we're supposed to be getting, and some of the cards I would like to see hit, and kind of give a little bit of an explanation on why I believe these cards need hit. I guess the first card we should talk about, or I guess the first deck that I want to talk about that just needs to get hit, or I feel should get hit right now, is Pendulum Magician. Now, Pendulum Magicians were one of the best decks of last format, and are arguably the best deck of this format. Being able to go into Electromite, and Electromite's kind of disgusting interaction with Astrograph Sorcerer makes, and the ability to put over 6 negates on board turn 1, and to be able to just like copy the Electromite's effect, and the fact that it has an FTK makes this deck one of the strongest contenders to get hit on the ban list. So, what cards do I think need to get hit on the ban list that relate to Pendulum Magicians? And there's really only 2 cards I see, and honestly both of them kind of need to get banned in my opinion. Or I guess one of them could go to 1, but one of them definitely needs banned. And the first card that I think, and this is the one that needs banned, and that's Astrograph Sorcerer. I think Astrograph Sorcerer is way too powerful of a card with Electromite in the game. And some might say, oh, well, you want to ban Astrograph, that's too much, that's too harsh. We already lost Joker and we lost Double Iris. Well, Astrograph can't exist, in my opinion, alongside of Electromite. And even putting Astrograph to 1 doesn't solve anything, because you can still loop the 1 Astrograph in your extra deck with Electromite. So I think Astrograph definitely needs to go. He's just way too powerful of a card, being able to activate in his own chain. And even if you search him and then like something was destroyed like a previous chain, he still summons himself. It's really, I think he's a really poorly designed card, and I think the way that he interacts with stuff and the way that his rulings have been are really not well done. Plus, he's a level 7, which goes into Absolute, and Absolute going into a Link monster, basically with Electromite, and then putting Vortex on the board is pretty nasty as well. So, I think that Astrograph should go. Now, the next card in Pendulum Magicians that might need hit, and I think this card definitely needs hit. Some people have told me that Nightingale needs hit, but I'm saying Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom. I think Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom is, while it inherently isn't bad, Supreme King Starving Venom isn't bad on his own. It's when you add Nightingale and Electromite to that factor, and the fact that he's a contact fusion and really easy to make, and his materials go into the extra deck, that he becomes a more broken card. As he needs 2 Dark Pendulum monsters, well, I'll just use Astrograph and some random person. Harmonizing makes him for free if you Pendulum summon it. And the fact that it's like, so in the potential situation where you have the answer to all 3 Electromites, whether that be Ogres, Ash, and Effect Veiler, and you stop all 3 Electromites, then they just make Starving Venom and completely blow you out with the 3 Starving Venoms in their extra deck. So I definitely think Supreme King Starving Venom needs to go to at least 1. Having 2 is still too much, but possibly banning him might be too much. But if you do ban him, I believe if he goes to 1, you can't do the FTK anymore, because I think it needs 2 Starving Venoms to do it. So I think that that would also solve the FTK issue. But if he does get banned, I'll still be happy, because I don't like the card. I think it's one of the most aggravating cards to see when going up against Pendulum Magicians. I just think it's a really bad card in the deck. I think it's an unfair card for the deck to have. So the next deck that I think needs addressed is True Draco. True Draco was half of the top 8 in Salt Lake City. A lot of people have been mentioning that. I think that's people just kind of getting hyped about it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that True Draco is one of the strongest contenders in the meta right now. It's arguably the second best deck in the format. So what to do about True Draco, and honestly, I only have one card and it needs to get banned. I think Masterpiece needs to go. Masterpiece is the card, I had a discussion about this with some people in one of my chat rooms, and just Masterpiece breaks every other card in the deck. Masterpiece breaks Diagram because Diagram doesn't really have too much else to search outside the True Kings in that situation. The Spell and Traps don't really activate too much unless they were sent there by Masterpiece. And the fact that Masterpiece, my biggest issue with him is that he can drop on the opponent's turn, and he has a pick your own immunity effect. It's like, do I want to be unaffected by monsters? Do I want to be unaffected by spells or traps? He just picks what he doesn't want you to do, and then potentially you can't really do too much to him unless you torrential him or use a spell card or something on him, like Regeki or Darkhole. So I just feel Masterpiece, and the fact that Masterpiece and True Draco has been sitting around in our meta for about 9 months at this point, I think it's time to move that deck out of the meta, because we've been seeing it since like mid-Zoo format. So I think it's time to move that deck out of the meta and put some new decks into the format, such as the Invoked Mech Knight deck and the new Trickstar stuff and the new decks that are coming out in the next set in Flames. So, like Goki. So, the third deck that I think needs hit, I do think that Trickstar is going to need a hit on this April list. And the only card in Trickstar that really needs hit is Reincarnation. Now, Trickstars haven't been doing a whole lot in the meta, but Reincarnation is still one of those cards that does need to be addressed. And there's really two answers here. You can either put Lycra... And I've always said this. I said you could either ban Lycris or you can ban Reincarnation. Some people say Reincarnation could go to 1 and it's not as bad, and I think that that would be fine, Reincarnation at 1. But with the new level 5 Trickstar coming out that's an Honest and like a Terratop all in one, I think that Trickstars are going to get a lot more powerful, and we'll see them a bit more in our meta. We still see them in our meta, but it's not as prevalent, but it's still there. So... But I do think that the Reincarnation does need to be addressed, because it literally is just a better version of a banned card, but as a trap. So, and it's searchable, but it's searchable and has a second effect. So I think it makes it a little bit more powerful. So I do think Reincarnation does need to get addressed at some point soon on the list. Another card that people have been talking about that does need addressed is the Supreme King cards. I think the Supreme King cards... like Darkworm and Donut. Some people have said Darkworm to 1. And if Darkworm goes to 1, I would be okay with that. Darkworm can go to 1 to help hit Pendulum Magicians and other Pendulum decks that abuse that engine to do the FTK. And I think that hitting Darkworm to 1 would solve a lot of issues for the Pendulum decks that actually do use that, that use the whole FTK stuff. The reason I like Darkworm at 1 is because it doesn't afflict any Destrudo engine. Because as cards go, I think the Destrudo engine is very fair. I think that there's a lot of points at which you could stop it. You could stop it at Dragon's Ravine, you could stop it at Destrudo, and you can even probably answer the level 7 Synchro that it summons. I don't think that Ancient Fairy needs hit on our list. I don't think that Ancient Fairy is as... I don't think that the Destrudo engine is as terrible as it is, and I don't think Ancient Fairy is as big of a problem as it is. I think that the fact that people are using the Ancient Fairy or the Destrudo engine to make Ancient Fairy and possibly pop the opponent's field spell is very clever. I think that it's a nice way to do an out in the deck while also advancing gameplay. And I think Ancient Fairy as a whole is a pretty balanced card, because you can also Ash Blossom it when it does its search effects. So I think that it doesn't need addressed on our list like it did on the OCG list. Now, I think that's about it on the ban list. I don't really think much needs to be put on there aside from a couple checks and balances to help balance out the rest of the decks in the format, because we're in a really healthy format right now, in my opinion. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. A lot of people believe that the format we're in right now, this February-March 2018 format, is an amazing format. It's great, it's healthy, there's so much viability for a lot of decks, a lot of things are topping, and many players love this. A lot of players are liking this format, and I understand why. It's just kind of a pick your deck and go see if you can win with it. We had World Chalice win. We had World Chalice win an event. We've had I think like what was it? Shinobirds topped a regional or an OTS thing recently. So just Cubics were top 32, so we're in I think we're in a very healthy format, and I think that it just like lends itself to a lot more creative deck building to see what the counterplay for a lot of different decks are. So, as far as things that could come off the ban list, I don't think that there's a whole lot that could come off. I think that I think it would be really cool if we took Chariot off the list, so that way we could see how Necroz goes into this format as well, because I know there's a lot of people who still want to play Necroz and want to see how that goes, especially with the new ritual support coming out in Cybernetic Horizon. But that might be the thing that they save until Cybernetic Horizon comes out here to unban Chariot, so that way it promotes the Necroz deck. As far as that goes, I hope that the important Necroz cards, if that's the way it's going, get reprinted in the Battles of Legend set that's coming out this year. But anyways, all in all, I think that on the semi-limited list, I think a lot of the cards on the semi list could come off like they did. We almost don't have a semi-limited list anymore because of all the cards that came off of it. So I think if we took the cards off the semi-limited list and just didn't have any cards at 2, I think that'd be fine. I can't think of any limited cards right now that I would want back, or banned cards that I would want back right now. So, but yeah, anyways, tell me what you guys think about what you think is going to get hit on the April ban list in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.